I've been wanting to do a TSM video for a while, but since they've been destroying everyone, there hasn't been really much to talk about. So this video is more about Cloud9 and how they went against TSM. We'll be doing basically like a VOD style review, running through all the gameplay. Some bits sped up, a little bit slowed down. I might stop it a few times to really emphasize some points. But into picker bans, we can see that TSM and Cloud9 are both doing the thing where you ban out specific champions for specific players. Impact share Cassiopeia for Jensen and also Jin for Sneaky. Same on Cloud9 side, Lucian for double lift, who's been playing it basically every single game because he hasn't had to play anything else. Biox and Azir, which Azir is one of those strong champions, as you can see. He's got a 50% ban rate as it is already. And then Rek'Sai for Svenskeren, who just uses her as an enabler to get his lanes ahead. But that leaves powerful champions such as Ryze open for first picking. But by the same time, Cloud9 also get two very, very strong champions who do get banned a lot in return because of this banning pattern that has happened. They end up picking Siva as well as Vladimir, which are a perfect combination as Vladimir often needs that speed up or some sort of engage like an Ashe to get into the fight to begin with. So Cloud9 are building this sort of team fighting comp, whereas TSM, they're just picking strong champions to start with, which is that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you just pick strong champions, then chances are you're just going to win the game just because they're better than your opponent's champions, which is a great solo queue tip. You know, just pick champions that are better than your opponents and you'll win the game. So they end up with Braum and Irelia, which we all know Aurelia's had that recent surge in top lane. I thought it was a bit early to pick your top laner. Like, you didn't really need to. You could have just picked up your ADC, but the ADC might have been instrumental in showing what composition they might want to build. But that, with the rise in the mid lane also, it allows for double TP, which is ridiculously strong anyway, because TP creates so much pressure on the map. You can't make a move because you're afraid that you're going to get 5-man dived because everyone else has got TP. That's what happens when teams play against TPs, is they can't do anything because they never know when someone else is going to show up. Back to Cloud9 though, they pick up Gragas, perfectly fine pick for what they're trying to do. They want to run at someone, body slam, flash into them, chuck cast, get them back into their own team and blow them up. But Soraka, why would you pick Soraka? It doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't help you in what you want to do, especially since no one actually builds the completed support items anyway. They always build the warding item that starts from your support item. You're not even going to get the talisman speed up. I mean, what's the point? There's no point. And back on TSM side, they just get a safe ADC, picking up Caitlyn, can shoot in the backlines, and then Nidalee, because Nidalee is just OP. Why would you pick her up? TSM basically have put together champions which are strongest in their respective positions compared to Cloud9, who, with the last pick have built some shaky teamfight comp with 1.5 ways of engaging. But enough about that, we'll get straight into the game now. Bits like this sped up because no one wants to see people invading to get wards for lane swaps that stifle the game and make everything boring. So I just want to talk about the Soraka just a little bit more. If you're going into standard lanes, then it makes a little bit of sense. It gets your ADC through laning phase so they can make a reasonable impact when it comes to mid game, which is kind of what Cloud9 want to do. They want to farm, get strong, and then up to the mid game, hit a power spike with maybe 2 items on their carries and see what they can do. But as you can see, it's just because Nidalee's being Nidalee, she's able to just quickly run from Gromp to blue buff to enemy red buff, and Gragas usually full clears on the side he starts, so that's perfectly fine, and then can get an easy gank off in top lane, which is where Cloud9 counterpicked Gnar in the first place. As you can see, Impact's doing a lot of damage to Haunter, but the fact that Svenskeren can just rock up and burn a flash means that there's so much pressure alleviated off the map. Especially since Meteos is unable to do anything with it. He doesn't have his red buff anymore, so it stifles his ganking potential. He didn't invade in response, so he can't get a red buff himself. And Svenskeren just goes back to farming. just free flash, no problem, not even behind on farm at all. Meteos goes for a later invade after clearing the Scuttle Crab, but Sensgaren doesn't care. Look at this, he chucks a spear over the wall to start the Krugs up before he even finishes the red buff. He's just doing whatever he wants, which is basically how Nidalee plays. But we can see here what Soraka is actually good for. She can trade, heal, basically 2v1 you, while your ADC just farm. But there's no real kill pressure, so Meteos comes down, thinks about it, and then backs off. But anyway, back to the top lane. Svenskeren, he's back again, because he's now ahead in farm on Meteos. This guy's overextended. Free stun, misses the spear because who cares? You're Nidalee, you don't need to land spears anyway. Gets first blood, easy as that. It does cost them Aurelia's flash, but the top lane matchup is one where if one of them gets ahead, it can just make the other person irrelevant. Gnar needs the Black Cleaver and then he needs tankiness after that, otherwise he's just going to die. Aurelia needs straight up damage to actually be a threat, otherwise she just gets stuns and dies. But Meteos, not to be outdone, is making some moves in the mid lane. Bjergsen wants to clear this wave so he can get Catalyst on his back, but overextends a little bit. Bang, body slam flash. Does a really nice body slam flash actually, where you flash instantly after you cast body slam, so the effect is immediate. But as we know, if anyone watches Echo Fox games, getting kills are overrated, and they're able to slowly push this wave into the tower, but the Ryze can just TP back into lane and get all his farm back, so it doesn't really make much difference. There's just 300, 450 gold passed over to the other team, and then that's that. And Svenskaren's already back to doing Nidalee things, clearing out the jungle. Goodbye Gromp, goodbye Wolves, you're all mine. And then a bad back timing from Cloud9's bottom lane opens up their blue buff to be stolen as well as the dragon without any pressure being lost on the map. Meteos is able to secure their enemy blue buff as well. Here's what happens when you pick Soraka. This is not Soraka's fault per se, but this is an example of TSM using the vision they got in the blue side plus Bjergsen's pressure in the mid lane to their advantage. Now, Soraka's already burned her Equinox, which has like a 30-second cooldown, so she's not going to get it back by the time she's dead. And she needs time and minions to die for her to get her health back. But we don't get to see her demise, we get to see Meteos gank for his top laner finally. And as Sneaky gets cleaned up as well, Bifrost dies because he's cool like that. And it's one of those moments for the Cloud9 bottom lane where you report your mid laner for allowing the others to roam for free while they're quote unquote scaling. But there's a big difference in what TSM and Cloud9 are able to deny for the opposition. By holding this wave here like this, Double Lift can deny like 2 full waves to the turret as well as getting a lot of tower damage, but Haunter just TPs back top again to catch his wave. Svenskeren gets picked off because he's trying to clear a pink ward, which is his bad, but Gnar ends up TPing bot lane. Now this is really ill-advised, and we all already know how this ends. But if you think about it, maybe you get this kill, right? Maybe you end up clearing the Braum as well because your whole team's roaming down, and then maybe you get the turret as well. But maybe he's just not good enough when you compare it to 2 lanes of guaranteed farm and protecting your turrets. And Aurelia gets a lead again. But we get to see Svenskeren getting caught out. Clearing pink wards, I mean, what can you do? Especially if the Vlad has to burn 2 Summoners and his ulti just to kill you. You can't be too dissatisfied at the outcome. But just from a whole, we can just see Cloud9 making some weird moves on the map. The standard lanes end up reverting, which, with the help of a little bit of jungle pressure from Nidalee, allows TSM to take the bot turret and rotate freely in the mid lane. Now, I don't want you guys to strain your eyes or anything, but I want you to just watch Sivir on the minimap. Stands in the middle of the jungle. Should I go to mid, help out, maybe? Yes, no, or maybe? Nah, I'm just going to go back and start farming again. Which is terrible, because Sivir's their only really good wave clear. What's Vladimir going to do? He has to stand up to use his Tides of Blood. Soraka, we already discussed Soraka. She's useless, but she ends up roaming all the way up into top just to heal up the Gnar a few times. Sven cops a chunk of damage, and for some unknown reason, after their mid tower has fallen, Sivir thinks it's a good idea to extend all the way nearly up into the river to try and get some farm. To be fair, she nearly got out of this, but she has no support. Is in top lane for some reason, no pressure, and TSM get a free kill. In response, Cloud9 do get a nice catch onto Haunter, which is exactly what they kind of want to be doing. They want to get Gnar ahead. But from here, Soraka starts recalling, because she thinks she can help hold bot lane for some reason. Jensen walks up because he thinks double F and Bifrost have recalled, gets stunned, and boop. See you later. But don't worry, guys. Soraka's on her way, who's going to clear waves and stop them getting the turret. They can't even get the turret anyway. Which begs the question, why'd she even bother recalling? What they should have done is stayed top, got the turret faster, and then tried to get the Rift Herald so their Gnar can actually do work in a 1v1 situation. That's somewhere where she could actually be useful. But they put Gnar in the bottom lane to match the Aurelia, which is 100% a-okay. But the rest of the map was just devolved to every man for themselves. Now, Bjergsen had a knack a little bit for overextending, especially on this side of the map. There's no reason for him to really be here. But it takes a really nice play from Meteos to get the kill anyway. The TP comes in basically immediately, and what is that Soraka ulti? Maybe she was under the impression that Bjergsen was on her team, but if she'd kept it just for a little bit longer, I feel as if they'd had a much better chance of turning around this fight. At the same time though, guess who's not there? Good old Sivir. Why do I need a team fight, guys? I don't even have one item yet because I haven't been able to get any farm. Well, the reason you haven't got any farm is because you haven't helped your team. It's a help me to help you thing. Right after this would have been a nice opportunity for C9 to have taken the Rift Herald again, but the thing is that it comes down to another one of Soraka's problems where she's not really able to forcefully get vision for your team. Braum and Nidalee are able to do a really good job of constantly invading, putting down vision, but the pairing of Gragas and Soraka just doesn't have the same impact. Now, if you were to compare it to any of the other options they had available, maybe even Nami, Karma, Alistar even, would have given them so many more choices for picking fights, roaming opportunities, all things like that, stuff that Soraka just can't do because she's a heal bot. And this is just another one of those windows of opportunity that opens up because Sivir is not in the mid lane pushing it in. Ryze can get an easy roam into the top lane without losing any pressure because there is no chance of him losing his mid turret. And having Sivir in the mid lane allows you to not only spell shield the traps so you can just get rid of them, but also chase down other champions so you can make picks in order to get yourself back into the game. Split pushing, it's lovely, everyone likes doing it. Because you get free farm, you don't have to worry about anyone else. But when it requires you to constantly make sacrifices on the map, for instance the Rift Herald, which will put your top laner even further behind for another 20 minutes, you just can't afford it. And now Meteos is trying to salvage what is left of their lead in the top lane department. But at the same time, TSM have just grouped up in the top lane and have started pushing down the turret. Now, Vladimir starts recalling, so they basically forfeited it. But anyone but Soraka would have been so much better in that situation. Tidal Wave or a Mantrid Q to clear the wave. Alistar just engaging and giving up your ulti just so you can push him off the turret. It's just the nature of Soraka. She needs fighting to be useful, but she sucks at fighting. In the end, Cloud9 are able to get the bottom turret, so it does even out with the extra kill on board. But we're just back to square one. Sivir in the top lane, can't clear waves in the mid. TSM set up a siege to get a free turret. Sivir still not there, still in the top lane. TSM set up siege. Do they get a turret? Let's wait and see. Yes, they get a turret. And you've just got to start thinking, what's their plan from here? They know they're down a considerable amount of gold. 3 dragons, crappy combat dragons as it is, but 3 dragons nonetheless. They haven't been looking to start a fight with TSM at all because they just have had their main source of propulsion off split farming the whole time. Not split pushing, but split farming, because he hasn't really produced any pressure on the map. And Cloud9 get a nice little window to try and get back into the game here, where 4 of TSM's members are just chasing around Impact. And they turn to bait the Baron, which is a really, really good idea, but they only have 3 members there because of Vlad's out of position. So the Ryze has to make an effort to try and stop it. But the problem is that despite having all the necessary tools to get the pick, they don't manage to do it. Sivir is finally with Gragas so she can speed up into the body slam, and Soraka can lay down the silence field so Ryze can't root the Gragas to stop the knock up. But Ryze gets to walk away with all of his summoner spells still, and it opens up the mid lane because Cloud9 are caught out of position, where TSM just do what they've been doing for the rest of the game. Caitlyn sets down the traps. shoots the turret a few times and they just poke out with their Nidalee, trying to get picks with Braum as well, and they get a free inhibitor out of it. They don't have the Sivir ulti, and the Soraka silence field is probably still on cooldown from when they try to use it at Baron. So, in response, Cloud9 then have to make a pretty desperate play, which is running down the mid lane to try and get some gold back in response. Which is fine if they want to keep their dream of scaling into the late game alive. They can probably tell that the gold lead, which is sitting at around 7,000 at this point, is made up mostly of the difference in the amount of turrets they've taken. They've managed to sneak in here due to TSM's recalls, but don't have a very strong turret taking team. And because of the quick turnaround from losing their inhibitor, their flanks have not been warded or swept very well, allowing TSM to get into the backline straight away, blowing up Soraka with Irelia and Ryze, and eventually winning the ensuing teamfight. This leads to an easy Baron take for TSM, which allows them to close out the game, since they'll have the superior siege comp, an immense gold lead, and also the Baron buff. Despite it failing miserably, it was a move that Cloud9 needed to make, because having that tier 1 turret still up when TSM are trying to bait the Baron just means that they'll have so much control over the map. It was just a risk they left until way too late in the game for it to pay off. And so now there's not much left for Cloud9 to really do except for maybe surrender, but they won't be doing that. And here's the replay of what happened. As we can see, that they were already starting to close the distance on Cloud9, and Soraka throws out the most useless silence ever, but they don't know that they're getting closed in on from the side. So you can really see how Cloud9 have basically no way of disengaging and getting away from constant Braum Qs and Nidalee spears and whatever else had been thrown at them. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to just how they played out the hand they dealt themselves. Whenever you fall behind like this, you have to have your wave clear follow where the majority of your opponent's champions are going, so they can't snowball their advantage by taking more turrets. You also need to emphasize vision in order to try and make picks and also protect where you have an advantage, as we see Cloud9 just getting rolled over by TSM to close out the game. But Cloud9 weren't able to do that. Sivir was often inside lanes farming against no one. Soraka's a useless champion, and Nah got camped right from the get-go, and that's that. Anyway, thanks for watching.